Wow. Welcome to the Dealer to Healer podcast, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful time. It's so nice to have you here with me today. My life has changed this week. I am now a published author. My book, Dealer to Healer, is on Amazon. It's number 1 in 3 categories on Kindle. I aimed to be number 1 in one category. That was my manifestation this week, is I will be number 1 in one category. I am number 1 in all my categories. It feels incredible. It's like I hit that and I was like, wow. And then they've all stayed at number 1. Like, it's been 2 days now and I'm like, when do they leave number 1? Like, are they going to stay there forever? This is like incredible. And the print version at one point in a category of death and grief in the paperbacks was above Ben Fogle. I was number 34 and he was number 36. I was like, yes, Ben, in your face. But yeah, he's overtook me now, so you can say that to me, Ben. Not that you have any idea who I am. Hopefully one day you might, and maybe you'll listen to the podcast and enjoy it. Maybe you'll even come on my show, because I've been told some nice things about you, actually, Ben. I just thought you were some posh kid, but yeah, you apparently are an amazing soul. So yeah, get on my show, Ben. You can come and teach me listeners, me viewers, if you're on YouTube, some things about life, and hopefully we can learn some stuff from you. So yeah, Ben, get on the show. Hopefully my book will going to overtake you again soon. Well, I'm coming for you, Ben. I'm only joking, Ben. I love you. Hope your book does really well. So yes, my book, Dealer to Healer, is number 1 in 3 categories. I'm number 1 in parenting and families. I'm number 1 in death and grief. I've had to deal with a little bit of that in my life. And the biggest one, which I didn't think I would get anywhere near, is I am number 1 in self-help. And this is what the podcast is all about. It's about helping people. By you listening to this podcast, hopefully you are achieving some kind of self-help. So yes, massive thanks to everyone who's bought the book, everyone who's been reviewing it on Amazon. Like, oh my, like some of the reviews I'm getting are just like blowing my mind, like totally blowing my mind. It's so beautiful what people are saying about the book and what people are getting from it, and just like enjoying the honesty, the rawness, the grit. Go and have a look at the reviews on Amazon. They're incredible. I've been very emotional this week. So yeah, lots of things have been making me cry and just opening my heart up a lot, which has been really nice to observe and to feel. And I'm trying to send a voice note to someone on WhatsApp with my thumb, and while I'm crying and trying to speak, and just like tears pissing all over my hand, and I'm just like, oh man, really, really touching, moving moments. And just if it all ended now and the book didn't sell another copy, it would be worth it for that moment and for the positivity and the self-inquiry that my book is leading to in a lot of people. It's also pissing a lot of people off, but we sometimes have to piss people off to, tell the truth, to tell our story, to achieve our goals. A lot of people in the book, I think, are worried about their parents finding out that we used to do loads of drugs. Jesus, man, we're all nearly 40. Like, surely you can talk to your parents about that. We should be teaching our parents that, we were just recreationally using drugs. We're having a good time, just like they've used drink, they booze. It's so openly available. It's so perceived as normal to drink, but if I cut up a line and did it in front of you on your table, you'd look at me as if I just shat on your lawn. Do you know what I mean? And where's the difference? It's not that massive a difference. So I think my generation and the generation that's coming up after us, they're going to teach me stuff like about what's going on now, because I'm not in it as much. And hopefully, my generation, we should be teaching our parents about these things, and about the difference between drugs and alcohol. And like, you go to an AA meeting or a CA meeting, it's the same thing. It's a substance that we abuse. They're all drugs. So it's kind of looking at it through those glasses, not through this blurred perception of what is acceptable and what's unacceptable. We're here to teach. We're here to teach the older generation. We're here to teach the younger generation, and then once we've taught them, we're here to learn from them as we grow, because they're in it. They're in it. They're at the cutting edge. So thank you so much for everyone who's bought the book. What else have I been up to this week? I did a chocolate yoga ceremony on Sunday, which was beautiful. I had a group of 10 people, a really heart-opening session, workshop, giving people the space to be able to go into their heart and, see what they want, and admitting it in front of people that they don't know, actually bringing it out into the open for maybe the first time sometimes. So I had a lot of people having emotions come up, having positivity come up, having dreams that they've forgotten about come up, having sparks of creativity and inspiration, and the yoga just kind of helps open these pathways, open this prana, this pranic energy, and the cacao really allows you to sit in your heart, and it stills the mind and stops all the crazy thoughts coming in. So that was a beautiful day. And then Monday night I had my book launch, and I was like, no one's gonna turn up, man, no one's gonna turn up. I'm gonna be sat here on my own with like all these books and no one's gonna come. But yeah, everyone came, and it was really humbling. Yeah, sold all the books that I had, got more coming, so lots of people have ordered them off me. I've got to sign them and send them off in the post, which feels pretty it's amazing. When the book came through last week and it was like a physical form, I don't know if any of you follow me on Facebook, but I did a little video of me opening the box of books, and I was just like, oh my god, it's like it's a real book, man. It's not been a real book before. It's just been this thing that I've been working on, and now it's a real book. And I touched it and it feels really nice, and I opened it and it's like got pages that are stuck together. I thought it was all going to fall apart, or it was just going to be someone else's book, but no, it's my book. It's Dealer to Healer. It is on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle for $4.99, or you can buy the paperback for $11.99, and get it, read it, see what you get from it, leave me a review. That would be amazing. My launch was on Monday. Monday was the 11th. I wanted to launch my book at 11 minutes past 11, just because they're like, angel numbers and powerful numbers. So, and then I got a few messages saying, oh, you've really researched your date. And I was just like, no, just like 11 like comes up all the time, and I know it's powerful. I can't always remember why it's powerful, but I just know that those numbers are powerful because all my friends who are into numerology talk about it a lot. And then I got a message saying, there's only 3 times every 100 years where the manifestation energy is this high, this vibration of bringing in and manifesting what you want is this high. So yeah, the 11th was powerful. I made all my group that I had at my chocolate yoga workshop sit down at 11 minutes past 11 and 11 minutes past 1 on Monday, and just reaffirm what came up for them in the workshop, what they wanted to manifest. So for me, it was making my book a bestseller, making a career from my book. I want to sell 1 million books. I want to help 1 million people. I want that to spread to more people, to be helped by my book, to step into their own power, to see their own beauty, to actually step away from what's expected of them and actually come into their own heart and be the person that they're supposed to be. Do you know what I mean? Like, our parents, don't be scared of what your parents want you to do. Do what you want to do, man. Like, how can we still be conditioned by our parents? Yeah, when we're bloody 18, 19, but then, you got to break away. You can't still be thinking, oh, I can't do that because my mum's going to be pissed off with me. Let's step into our power. Let's own what we do. Once you take ownership, you step up to the plate. I own this. I'm backing this up. Doesn't matter what you think. If you think badly of me for this, that's your shit. Don't project that onto me. I'm force fielding that shit out of it. You know what I mean? It's just gonna bounce back at you. So that's what the book's all about. I'm empowering people. I want people to see their own beauty. I want people to go on their own journey. I want people to get rid of prejudices. I want people to just excel and, find your tribe. Find the people that resonate at the same frequency as you. So with that, I think I'm done with my little rant at the start of the show. Have I got anything else to say? Dealer to Healer. It's on Amazon. Get it someone for Christmas. Get some nice Christmas wrapping paper. Oh! There's another book. I've released another book. I'm a multi-published author now. Hitchhiking. Feel the Good Vibrations. It's very much lighter than my main book. It's a small book. It's about 10,000 words long. It's about when I come back from the Amazon, I decided to hitchhike all the way around England and Scotland and see my friends I hadn't seen for like nearly a year. And it's just about the people that I met along the way way and the little stops. It's, it's funny, it's sweet, and I was so open and so full of love at this point. Nothing could hold me back. Everything I wanted to do was just like getting achieved, and I was just like hitchhiking. The weather was beautiful, meeting these amazing people, getting myself in some crazy situations, and just like handing my power over like to God, just going, God, this is in your hands now. Like, if I get to my friend's house today, like, I'll be buzzing and be thankful. Meditating every day to achieve my goals, really being focused on spreading love. Like, every time I was meeting someone, I was like, if I get in someone's car now, I want to spread love to them. I want their consciousness to expand somehow. Do you know what I mean? I just want to be giving out this amazing energy, this healing energy, whatever it is. So that's what the hitchhiking book's about. So it's just a happy book. So if there's any part of hopefully my main book, you should come out of it still feeling pretty happy and blessed. But I think it's a lot more challenging, the main book. This is quite light and beautiful and an easy read. So I hope you enjoy it. My cousin, just every time she thinks about it, she pisses herself. There's a family that I met from Leeds when I was hitchhiking, and she just says, she brings it up all the time. But yeah, it's a cool little story. So I won't ruin it for you. It's not a big book, so get that ordered as well. That's on Amazon. You can buy that paperback. You can buy it on Kindle, whatever you do. So, and liambrown.com. Have a look at liambrown.com. All my music's on there, all my acting stuff, all my podcasts. Oh, my podcast. Oh no, you're on my podcast, aren't you? I don't have to tell you about my podcast. You're on it, man. You're listening to it. Yeah, but you can link onto my website. You can read the blogs about each person that's been on my podcast. So liambrown.com is like my central hub for everything to do with what I'm doing at the moment, all my books, all my acting. Don't think I've put anything on there about yoga. Maybe I will at some point. Who knows? I'm new to this. If anyone really wants to help me, just give me a ring and, help me out, because it's confusing, this techie stuff. It's a bit over my head, but I'm getting around it and I'm learning. So again, empower yourself. I can learn this shit. I'm just lazy. I don't like buzz off twiddling knobs and learning code and stuff. So I like to be out there talking to people, having a good time, spreading love, spreading joy. So if somebody else wants to do my tech side, just give me a call, man. We can sort something out. We can get you on my show, or I'll give you some credits. I can say your name over and over again, whatever you need. So today's show, I don't think I've been this nervous about not nervous about doing a show, but just the level of this human's intellect sometimes intimidates me. Like, he just holds information, knows information. He makes me want to be better. He's on it in so many ways, in so many different avenues, in business, in his life, in his growth, in his practices, in his commitment, and his determination. So sometimes when I sit with him, I'm a bit overwhelmed by his intellect, but then I'm just like, oh man, I'm around this guy. This is amazing that I'm around a person like this, that I can call a mate. How incredible is that? How amazing just to be able to be around somebody like that. And we're discussing a lot to do with the mind, to do with mental health, to do with how we control the mind. And this is like a major crazy issue at the moment. Suicide rates are so high. I've been there myself and been very, very close to making that call. And this is a guy who's trying to, get control of that and trying to help other people get control of that. Give them practices, give them bits of wisdom, and just to give them hope, to bring awareness to these problems that we have with curbing the mind, and how, if anyone went in most of our minds, we'd all probably end up getting locked up in a straitjacket. Do you know what I mean? So yes, epic human being. We're talking a lot about the mind, a little bit about Tantra, a little bit about business and letting go. So yeah, an incredible show coming up for you. I couldn't even edit it, man. The guy just talks beautifully, eloquently, understandably. He breaks things down. Everyone can get something from this man who's, to me, is a little bit of a guru for me, and I love him to bits. So I'll hand you over. Enjoy the show, guys. Have a blessed day. Peace. You to bless my soul. Thank you for coming to the Dealer to Healer podcast. I'm your host, Liam Brown. An amazing guest with me today. All of you on the podcast who can't see him, how beautiful and handsome he is a guy I met about 18 months ago who I did some work for. actually moving tons and tons of dirt up some stairs. Me and my friend Dave, who'll be on the podcast at some point. So yeah, we met about 18 months ago, and since then I realised that this man had lots of things that I wanted to learn. He's a successful businessman. He's an amazing father, family man, doing a lot of work in the tantra field, the yogic field, and it was just stuff that I didn't know about that I wanted to learn more about. So here he is, Mr. Greg Garrett. Thanks for being on the show, mate. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me. There's not many people there to invite me. It's sort of like I'm seen as high risk.
High risk.
Yeah, my kids think I'm crazy, which I think is a good quality as a dad. They put me on the insanity spectrum.
Yeah.
So, which is quite interesting because with regards to change and transformation, you get. You often get people who, see it as something that creates a lot of stability, whereas actually, as you change and transform and you clear layers, you can have moments where you do feel unstable, and you go through those periods. So just to share that my kids think I'm a little bit zany, a little bit crazy, which actually I think is a vote of confidence for me as a dad.
Yeah, totally. At least you don't think you're a Mondeo salesman driving up and down the country and,
This is true.
You're grey and boring. I'm not saying that all Mondeo salesmen are grey and boring. I don't even know if do Mondeos exist? But I'm getting at, that kind of mundane reality of going to work, coming home, not learning, not expanding your consciousness and your awareness. And for when people think you're weird, usually means you're on the right path.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think being a Mondeo salesman would always be a great starting point. I wouldn't like to think if I was a Mondeo salesperson that I'd arrived. I'd like to think that I was on my journey, and that I was using the vehicle that I had to help me travel towards the destination that I'm seeking.
There's something more coming.
Yeah, there's always the potential for more coming, and it just depends then on really what the more is that people are looking for. So, is it that they're looking for, more in an external sense, which I think for me for many years was the case. And you described me as a successful businessman. I think, we'd have to look at the definition of success, because I know over the years I've changed that definition for me. So I don't know if I would describe myself as a successful business person, even though I accumulated a lot of things in the external world, and people might jump up and down. And, I managed to put a few zeros on bank balances, and people might see that as success. But that's the stuff that's going to pass. That's the stuff you can't take with you. And I suppose I've been fortunate enough, I'd say probably to experience a death in the business sense. See the old Greg, which actually people might get on that old Greg. I don't know, the character, I can't remember which program it was in. I know a friend of mine he'd always call me old Greg. Old Greg, right?
Before my time, I think.
I don't know, you got to be 80 if you're a dad.
Right, well, before we get into all that, so just tell my listeners, my viewers, a bit about Greg Garrett, what you do, what transformational work you do, because this is obviously a podcast all about transformation, about metamorphosis, about us becoming the most beautiful version of ourselves. So break it down, what you do, what you're up to, where we can find out about you, or we can sort of see what you're doing in your businesses, or ways you're helping people.
So let's go from current day backwards, I think, just to give you a snapshot. So what would you find me doing day to day? I'm a great believer in practices. So, what I'm doing is I do yoga practices, and I do meditation practices, which I'm sure we'll get into talking more about. I've come to realize that my dharma, or my purpose in life, is to actually help people. And even though I knew this for many years, the dichotomy was that I was spending far too much time helping myself, stuck in the ego. So whereas today what you find me doing is you find me helping people And that can be in a whole variety of ways. Maybe doing some coaching for someone who's stuck on a particular issue. Maybe just visiting someone who's lonely, or and in terms of, or maybe even going and helping out at an event. So I find myself in Copenhagen recently, where I was working in a kitchen, and I was chopping vegetables, and what the realization for me is that actually it doesn't matter what it is that you're doing in life. It just matters that you're doing it really well. So make sure that you're always full power, and that you're bringing the best of yourself to a situation. So I think that, that's how you'd find me nowadays. I've been doing a lot of property development, and I'm in a transition now where I'm just completing the last development in Liverpool, and I'm excited because I'm handing everything over to my son, who's a 21-year-old. I mean, he decided not to go to university, preferred to come to the University of Life, learn about property. So he's taken over the reins there, or just continuing in the world of property.
The heir to the throne.
The heir to the throne, or, which, but it's sort of a throne that, I think, we can imagine that in many, many different ways. I don't know if it's more of a burden than a throne, having been on that path, and also experiences the challenges that go with it, as opposed to, the world that I'm finding myself in now, where I'm stepping into my purpose, and also working very closely with my beautiful partner, Samantha, who I know Liam knows well. And she's committed to breath work, in helping people to clear blockages, to begin this process of illumination. And what's brilliant and beautiful about that is it's content free. There's no discussion. There's no blah, blah, blah. You just breathe through your issues. And then hopefully you pop up in a transformed space the other side. And what I'm also doing is I continue to study, probably more than ever, reading important texts. So the Gita at the moment is a text. I've got it on Audible in the car. It's just full of so many beautiful, timeless lessons. And I can't give you the exact date. It was written so many thousands of years ago. Predates Christianity, and probably one of the pivotal books of our time. It's hidden under the dust and the debris and the blockages of this environment that we live in. So you'll find me reading books like that.
And that's the good thing about yoga, though, isn't it? Because these books are coming more to the light, like the Upanishads, the Gita, everything. Before yoga came, there was no interest in this country, in the West, really, in those texts.
And I think or feel that not only is the interest arising, I think in this time that we live in, we're super gifted to have technology around us. So now not only, can you get a book that you can read as a page turner, but you can also, if you prefer learning styles to listen, then we have audio in the car, we've got via our computers. So a bit like these podcasts going out. We haven't got to travel like tens of thousands of miles and to get to gurus, which if you think about not too many, hundreds of years ago, if people wanted to go and visit India, they'd have to basically plan a trip, get a boat, walk a long way, maybe ride on a donkey, as some of these spiritual stories tell us. Whereas nowadays we've got the technology and the access to this material. We've also got technology that can, fly us around the world in, less than 24 hours. So we're highly privileged. We're in a highly privileged time.
Even more so than 20 years ago, because 20 years ago everything wasn't on the internet about learning from these gurus. A lot of the time you can just go on YouTube now and learn from the guru, and listen, absolutely. Which is amazing.
And again, we'll probably get into it. I would encourage everyone to either have a book, which can be the teacher, because the lessons are present in that. Have an audio that can be the teacher, or actually have a physical teacher, or a physical guru. I enrich my environment by, getting into the resonance of the books and the recordings and the people that I believe helped me to step into who I'm becoming.
Yeah.
And that might sound quite subtle to some people. Oh, he's just talking about a book or a person. But as you attune yourself, the incredible aspects and nature and consciousness of these people begins to pour forward and permeate your own being. So, a saying is that you can only see what you're able to see.
Yeah.
So as you expand your consciousness, you see far more in the book.
Yeah.
Or you see far more in the person.
Yeah.
So, again, this notion, take it personally, polish yourself, attune yourself. As we're saying, though, we are surrounded by a wealth of gifts. It's just hidden behind, the likes of a million TV channels and
things that's trying to distract us all the time.
Yeah. Everything's after our attention and distract us. And, we could really get into an important discussion about that. But I don't know if that's the direction we're going to go into today.
We'll see what happens. But I think for what we've just discussed from the start of the show, a question that I think a lot of people will be interested in is this transition of letting go of the business and giving it to your son. Is that for you to be able to move more into your light, into your path, into helping more people, into doing a job that's more spiritual? Is that what this is all about, the handover?
Yeah, so it's important, I feel, to contextualize that someone in property and property deals can do a lot of great work. Yeah, for me, the limitation is the number of people that I'm able to connect with and touch day to day is fairly limited. So but I want to celebrate and applaud people who via their path. I have great friends of mine who, for example, run a garden centre.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the work that I see them doing is, they take people into jobs in the garden centre and then they grow them, they support them, they nurture them, and help them to transform. And even though it's so artful and so subtle, they're bringing their light to the world. So for me, the transition is to be able to bring the light or bring my light to more people. And, I'm currently working on a book that I'm writing, which we may get into talking about, as well as in the process of setting up a man's group. So because there's really important work to do there, as well as working with friends of mine internationally. And we have One Breath Global, which people can find as onebreathglobal.com.
We'll put a link on.
Yeah, that's
on the
great.
Show notes for that.
Yep, beautiful. And for the last few years, we've been posting good news content.
Yeah.
Not going to the audience with any offerings, or just simply going to the audience with good news content, in the form of maybe quotes or slightly longer discourses about helping people to deal with mind-based issues, helping people to get into the heart. We have a post called Spiritual Saturday, which is just, again, a way of expanding consciousness. I know people are like wordsmiths sometimes, so we can use a certain word but maybe not another. So just relaxing around concepts and ideas and getting good news, good, what we would class as good quality content that just helps to clear the clouds for people, just allow the sunlight in. But also, hopefully, as they feel the sunlight, allow them, to radiate their light back out. So
and to go and research further and click on more stuff and explore more in their own learning.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the, I think, godly attributes, or one of the attributes, let's put it another way, of being a great human being, is to be curious. And so as people click and they learn and then they begin to absorb information, just beginning to recognize what is lighting me up or what's making me feel lighter. And, it may be, something that you interface with, again, through maybe even this podcast or a book. And, I encourage, insatiable curiosity, push the boundaries on yourself, dig into aspects that light you up. You will be surprised how far you can progress into subject matters, and then just begin to reveal things not only about the subject matter, also reveal things about yourself. I mean, yoga would be a great example of that, where people might start and think, well, it's about body shapes and postures. Maybe some people think it's a little bit about fitness. Ultimately for me, the realization is it's about resonance. Which, what does that mean? It means tuning in to energies that are universal energies that are commonly available. So just to give you it's a bit like gravity. If I drop a ball, then the ball's going to fall to the ground. So that's an energy that's present in our universe. And yoga allows us to access energies that are present in the universe. They're freely available. Because most people haven't dug into the subject matter or explored it deeply, they're blind to it or asleep to it. And then we get lots of types of teachings of yoga that I feel miss this key core ingredient, which is yoga is attuning me to find balance, to find peace, and as the word, to find union. So
yoga.
That's yoga.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I love about yoga, because you do get people coming just for fitness. I remember a bloke, and he's coming. He's like, I think he was a builder or something. He's like, I just want, because he'd read that Ashtanga got you ripped. Like, I don't want any of that spiritual shit. Don't tell me any of that. I just want to get ripped. I think a year later, he was in Rishikesh doing his Ashtanga yoga teacher training, wearing bloody tie-dye hippie clothes, and you're just like, that set of postures in whichever yoga you're doing is usually designed to open levels of consciousness in your body, the pathways of energy that's coming in from below and above, and that's allowing this movement of prana, which expands the consciousness, to just move around the body more freely. You're opening, just like a canal's opening the locks. You're just kind of letting that, okay, this can move now, which opens the mind and just lets us think differently about things, which is beautiful.
And I think that's the spirit of you saying, is dig into something. Don't just take it as a surface level. Go on this adventure and have this insatiable curiosity, and then really explore it, and be prepared to have a starting point of wanting to get ripped. There's that is absolutely perfect as a starting point. Then don't be surprised 12 months later when you're in Rishikesh and you're like, oh my God, how did I get here? And you're dressed in Indian clothes and you're like, oh my God. And it reminds me of a great story, a Yogananda story, where there's a guy who goes to Yogananda, and there's a book called Autobiography of a Yogi, which is actually a great read. But this guy goes to Yogananda and he says, Yogananda, I've sort of been listening to what you're saying. He said, but you know what, I don't want to give up smoking, and I don't want to give up overeating, and I definitely don't want to give up sex. So I don't think that your message is for me. And Yogananda go, whoa, hang on a minute. I want you to keep overeating. I want you to keep drinking. I want you to keep smoking, and I want you to keep having sex until you don't. And the only thing I'm going to ask you to do is just keep turning up at the ashram and keep listening to the talks. Anyway, 18 months later, the guy is no longer overeating. He's no longer smoking. He's teetotal, and he's monogamous with a woman who he's deeply in love with. So, the idea of, we talked about yoga and getting into the resonances there. Again, if you can put yourself in the presence of enlightened people, and they are on the planet, they're just the ones normally that are quite quiet or saying less. If you can put yourself into their presence, then you can get into their resonance. And what you'll find is that changes will naturally occur in you as a human being. So what I really am crying out to people to say is whatever your starting point is perfectly okay.
Yeah.
Just allow that to be the place that you're beginning. It's not the place that you're ending.
Yeah. And that's what with my book and with these podcasts, it's I don't want it to be so advanced that people can't come into it from any starting point. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be sort of, I think that was the thing with writing my book. It was for people, because when I first became, like, my mind started to change a little bit, I didn't feel like there was anyone around me that I knew that was that way inclined, that I wanted to learn from. It was like I was looking behind rocks all the time, trying to uncover things, and then realizing, oh, there's meditation groups in my village, or there's these spiritual meetings, and it's just kind of uncovering those things and giving people confidence to actually look under that rock and see what's there for them. It might not be under that rock, it might be under the other one, but just keep looking and keep searching.
And it reminds me, there's a lot of people who start on the path and then they have this experience of, not only not knowing, where their tribe is, because I think there's a lot to be said for finding your tribe. And in finding your tribe, whilst it rhymes, I think it's a fair saying, you find your vibe. These are the people that you want to be interacting with. You have conversations that illuminate you and them. You challenge each other. You support each other. You point blind spots out to each other. So people get started, and like you say, they start turning over rocks, and eventually they tend to find that they find a person or a group of people that they feel more aligned with. And that really is something that I'd encourage people to do. Stay with whatever development you're doing until you begin to associate yourself with people whereby not only is it you now growing, that the group, the community that you find yourself in, they're all growing. So because otherwise what I've noticed is people start maybe yoga, meditation, or other practices, breath work as an example. They don't necessarily see the progress in themselves as clearly as people observing them do.
Yeah.
So as a point of encouragement, and not only, as Liam's saying, want you to turn over a lot of rocks to find your tribe, I want you to ask people, what changes are they noticing in you? And I don't mean people who are asleep or unconscious. I mean, people as you see who are awake or who have already made great progress. Because what you find is when you're in it yourself, it's really hard to see. But when you're external to it and you're looking at someone, you can often be amazed by the transformation that's occurring. And it's so supportive then if you're able to point out and share with them and light them up in new ways. And I suppose I'm saying it this way because of the way you're approaching the path. And the fact that not only do you want to switch people on, you want to tune them in, you want to light them up. So I'm just pointing out some of the, the stumbling blocks that I've seen that hopefully you and I can help people prevent or, not encounter at all.
Hopefully. The important thing as well is like there being a lot more stuff on offer for blokes, because you come into the spiritual environment and at first it's a lot of women. Like when I first started yoga, it's not the same as it was, but when I first started yoga, it was kind of like me, one other guy in a room full of women, which is amazing in some ways, but it's shifting, but there's still not as much stuff. There's a lot of women's groups, isn't there? And a lot of stuff that's just for women.
Yes.
It's kind of like the reverse of when our whole culture revolved around pubs and there was a snooker room and a men's vault. And you know what I mean? So women were closed off from that. And in some respects, in our kind of spiritual community, there's a lot of stuff that we're closed off from. And to be able to, like you're doing, holding these men's group, and I know Dave's holding men's groups in Stroud, is just an amazing opportunity and place for people to go to connect. You know,
but you think about men, the what the way men are is, certainly we were brought up on, stiff upper lip, survival of the fittest,
don't show emotion.
We've got these slogans from our past, And these things are deeply embedded. So what the challenge that men can face is that they don't feel at first that the space is really safe for them to step into. Yeah. It's a bit like, hang on a minute, someone's playing a trick on me here. I'm on game for a laugh. I'm being, taken into some alternative reality TV show, and I'm going to appear at some point in the future, because the culture and the society's made it so unsafe to go into these spaces like men's groups, that changing the minds and the hearts of men to say, look, if you or society continues in the way that it's going, then, the outcomes don't look as bright as we would like them to look. And actually, if I spent or we spent an hour inside the heads of most people, probably an hour would be more than enough. We would be mightily concerned about the mental health and stability of the individual.
Yeah.
So and it's not isolated to men. Yeah, as you're saying, women tend to be more open to and find groups more easily. Yeah, as men, and as I include myself in that, we need help. We need to be supported. So, something I've been working on recently is I approach every day in terms of, so what is it today that I'm looking to develop? And the last few days, one of the things has been openness. So, and openness is interesting for me because I'd learned that I had to sort things out myself.
What, growing up, like family?
Growing up in business, I'd created a belief that people are unreliable. And so therefore I cut people off far too early. I wouldn't really give them much of a chance. So, me working on openness is, about developing patience, listening very attentively and clearly, allowing people the opportunity to emerge, allowing people the opportunity to explain things, where previously I would have just shut down or cut off and thought, I've got to sort this out myself, I've got to do this myself. So openness has been at the forefront. And then the other thing is trust. So I've not been great at trusting. Now, where I reference this in my experience, which I think is going to be pretty similar, is that that you're not trusting when you're stuck in your head and you're trying, and I use the word advisedly, to analyze and solve a problem that actually the head or the mind is incapable of solving. So what do I mean by that? Well, the mind is capable of arguing both sides of any problem. And so when we get stuck in a mind storm and mind activity, we actually disconnect from the heart and we become super mental. And actually, we are becoming mental at that point. Yeah. And we start to disconnect from ourselves. Some people then experience palpitations. Some people experience sweats. That's how it used to manifest in me. Nightmares, night terrors, not even being able to get to sleep. And these are all signs that your mind is full power. Yeah. The realization, though, having done lots of meditation, is that once you learn to actually silence the mind, and some of your listeners will be like totally gobsmacked. You mean that insane lunatic that I carry around with me on top of my shoulders can be silent? And the answer is yes. It can be silent.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So it's great. There's two men agreeing on that. So for men, the message that I want to get out is: look, come and bring that insatiable curiosity to explorations of things like the mind. What is making my mind function? What's making it work? It's often said no one was born with a manual. You didn't pop out of your mum and the doctor went, bang, this is how Liam works. If he's having trouble in this way, just turn to page 78 and it describes his brain functioning. So we need to be able to open up and communicate so that we can develop self-awareness. And this is just self-awareness about how to be an optimal human being. you know, if you look at science at the moment, what's science saying? Science is saying that we're only using 3 to 5% of our capability. So the question that my teacher asked was, well, hang on a minute, where's the other 95 to 97%?
Yeah, and how do we access it?
And the answer is actually we access it by stilling the mind, which is a huge journey for people to undertake. You know, if you want to be one of the greatest explorers of all time, the greatest adventurers, now I'm putting a program together called, you know, Everest. You're climbing your Everest, because it's seen as like the climb that, you know, people should undertake.
Yeah.
Well, learning to still the mind is like learning to climb Everest. So, you know, don't want to put it in any.
I'd prefer to climb Everest, to be fair. To me, it'd be easier. Like it'd be less of a challenge, and anything physical, I like things to do physical for me. I'll always choose to do that rather than, like, you know, even in yoga, like my constitution wants to do the difficult, hard, fast yogas, the ones with arm balances, handstands and stuff like that. And since I've come back from traveling this time, I'm doing a lot more softer yoga of the yoga that I used to do, Shivananda kind of technique. And it's just a few postures. You hold them for a lot longer. It's more disciplined. I don't feel as like kind of hectic going through the practice, and I still do the other kind of more physically demanding practices because I enjoy them. Do you know what I mean? But that's my go-to thing. Like where other people who are more Kapha constitution, their go-to thing is to do a yin yoga, a softer yoga, and that's the stuff that I need to be doing. So the same with Everest and the mind, like I'd choose that straight away than trying to figure my mind out. But like you're saying about just that we can quieten it, my mind is still quite frantic, but compared to what it was with the work that I've done and with the yoga, it's nowhere near what it used to be. Even just the thoughts that I used to have, I don't have the same train of thoughts. They've gone. Like when people first told me that, oh well, once you stop doing that, then eventually you'll stop thinking it, and then it won't be there at all, and you're like, fuck off. Like it's bollocks, you know what I mean? And then you stop doing it, and that takes a bit of practice, and then another probably 6 months later you stop thinking it, and you're like, oh yeah, then people do know what they're talking about. Do you know what I mean?
and so, you know, Everest as a picture is a great way for people to view the mind. And, you know, just to make, I think because it's important, this year on Everest, and people can look at this, there was more deaths than normal. So quite often, you know, what a lot of people do is they go to climb Everest and they're not properly trained. They pick the wrong guide. So, you know, because it's not something you can take lightly. It's a very, very serious thing that they're undertaking. Now, with the mind, it's similar and different. You know, we've got suicide at an all-time high. You know, where's the relationship between the mind and suicide? Well, people can't cope with their mind. So, we've got, again, another similarity there. So, you know, my message to people is, look, if you want to undertake the climb of a lifetime, you want to conquer your Everest, conquer your mind first. What does conquering your mind look like? It means being able to get your mind to a place where it is like a still lake. It's a still, reflective surface.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And then, you know, the other thing that in achieving that not a lot of people realize is the practices that you then continue to undertake. It's about mental hygiene, you know, so, you know, look at physical hygiene, you know, and you say to most people, how often do you brush your teeth? And they go, well, I brush them twice a day. And you go, well, yeah, why'd you do that? Well, because I want to have a hygienic mouth. I don't want to have to visit the dentist. And you're like, yeah, exactly. And, you know, how often do you wash your body? And they say, well, you know, some people shower once a day, some people twice. And, well, why'd you do that? Well, because I want to be hygienic. I want to smell nice. Okay. So they're actually getting this idea of physical hygiene, but actually mental hygiene. for me, mental hygiene is about, well, in the same way that you brush your teeth and you wash your body, there's certain activities that we want to be undertaking, be it meditation or yoga, be it once or twice a day, in order to allow the mind to clear out the dust, the debris, and the blockages.
Yeah.
So part of the journey, the early part of the journey, is just these realizations that, actually, do you know what? What would happen, for example, to your car if you never changed the oil, you never got it serviced? Eventually it just clogs up completely and it stops working.
Or if you put shit oil in it, the wrong oil.
Exactly.
Which is, the equivalent of what food we eat and what we drink.
Exactly. Yeah, and the body temple is the same. Yeah. So my simple message to people is, come on, let's move now beyond physical hygiene. I'm like, look, you walk into Boots or one of these dispensaries and you look at the amount of products that people are using to beautify the external temple, which is all great, and I love looking at beautiful people. Yeah, if we can beautify inside the body temple as well and start to remove the dust and the debris and the blockages, not only imagine how one individual's changed, as that ripples out, you think about homes, communities, and the world as a whole. So the question we were asking is, well, there's only 3 to 5% that people have accessed. So where is the 97 or the 95%?
Just in there. It's just in there. Put it in there. The 97% in there.
So and the simple answer is it's in the heart. The bigger answer then is, well, how do we gain access to the heart? And again, to bring men back into it, and the reason for men's groups is because men have become so head-based and so shut down that there's no way they can get out of the 3 to 5%. And, let me give you an example. If we take Parliament at the moment, and dare I say, this topic of Brexit, the reason that there hasn't been the solutions that are required is because we've got minds arguing, Conservatives, Labour. These people have got opinions and points of view at the level of the mind. But if ever there was a topic or an issue where we needed Parliament to come together to say, look, we need a solution for the country here, this is just a perfect example. And yet, what did that require? It required them to get out of their heads and into the heart. It required them to stop having individualistic points of view that are disharmonious and at loggerheads with each other, to start to find the meeting points, the points of agreement, the points of harmony, the points of connection. And then I'm just using it as an example.
So, how do they get to that in a quick way? Like, say you had the whole. I've got an idea for you, which I think is okay. I don't think you've possibly got a better one than this. I'm going to hold myself to this. I'm going to win this one.
This is a big statement.
But as an instant, how do we instantly get both of those sides of the House of Parliament to come into the heart? How would you do it? What's the quickest way to get them to do
it? The quickest way to get both sides of the house into the heart. See, I'm going to go to, how long does change take? And the answer for me is as long as it takes. So I'm going to say to you, I don't think directly there is a simple, quick way. And actually, I think it's intended this way. Yeah. That it's a bit like climbing Everest. Before you can even face the mountain, you've got to do the training and preparation. Well, then once you've done the training and preparation, you've got to convince a guide who's done the mountain many times before that you're ready. Now, what we have in this parliamentary situation is, we've got sides that have been taken, and people who are just used to being in the minds, living in the minds, debating in the minds. Some people might say arguing in the minds. That it's a mind-based reality. It's a mind-based culture. So we need to create more heart-based people through yoga, through meditation. And then we need to begin to see those people emerging in that environment. More women, for example, inside of that space. And I don't mean emasculated women. I mean the divine,
which are mostly the case at the,
Yeah, because women want to, women think, success looks like men. How are men behaving?
Yeah.
Well, men are behaving like lunatics. Why? Well, it's all mind-based. So I need to behave like a man lunatic in order to make this work.
Yeah.
Not always, yet sadly and oftentimes, the divine feminine essence is therefore subdued because the belief is to get to the top, I have to behave as...
because it's a masculine environment. It's been set up by men. The whole thing was set up by men.
Yeah, it's unconscious men.
Yeah.
So one of the things that my teacher says, which I feel is beautiful as well, is, because there's a lot of talk about toxicity, don't hang out with toxic people and don't put yourself around them, and he would say, well, look, it's not that there are toxic men, so let's not give up on them. It's just that those men are unconscious.
Yeah.
As in, they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And that is, again, we talked about this insatiable curiosity. They haven't gone on that journey into discovering more about their interior life and their interior qualities.
Yeah.
They think it is all about accumulation out there. Whereas actually, probably for you and I, if we went down that route, the wealth that we've created over recent years through, we've both been on trips to India. We've both spent a lot of time in silence, in meditation. We've both done an incredible amount of yoga. We can then begin to say, okay, what these mystics and yogis and gurus and teachers were all talking about, this interior wealth. We've begun to touch that and experience that in such a way that we're now making changes in our lives. We're making like podcasts to share messages with people. Why? Because we're saying to you, come and get the real riches. Come and just begin to taste the honey. So when we go back to the mind, and again, something my teacher says to me, look, what we need to let people know is that the mind has the ability to transform nectar into poison. The still silenced mind, the pure mind, has the ability in association with the heart to transform poison into nectar. So because we're mind-based as a society, we are, even when there's glorious ideas or examples, the mind is too quick to grab it and then to defile it and to turn it into something that's poisonous. As opposed to when we do eventually arrive in the heart space, and I do believe that we can get there individually and collectively, and we do learn to go on the journey to silence the mind, then when something poisonous shows up in our environment, just think about it. That beauty of being able to take that poison, to put it into that space where no poison can exist, and therefore it purify it in ways. So an example of that would be, someone say facing a work problem. There's a lot of people say facing financial problems. Well, if you face these problems at the level of the mind, they're only going to get magnified. They will become bigger problems. And actually, probably by association, people will agree with you and tell you how big the problems are. Once you learn to get into the heart, you can turn these problems into nectar, which means that not only does the heart know the way through and out of the problem, the heart will show you ways that you couldn't even dream of. In order to be able to experience that, because people might be thinking, this Greg fella, it's easy for him. Let me tell you, no, it wasn't easy. Some days it's been like crawling up Treacle Mountain. You can just imagine how slow, just trying to make the next move and the next move, and I can share with you some of the backstory that hasn't deterred me. It's just driven me into deeper levels of determination, because I do believe that, at everyone's core, they are good and they're beautiful. I believe in the human spirit. I just also recognize and know that I've been born into a time where the mind is completely out of control. So, and that's the message, you're probably hearing it loud and clear, that I want to get over, is I want to help people, for those who want to go on the journey, to get out of the mind and into the heart. Just to accentuate, though, let's not give the mind a bad time. Okay. The mind is an instrument. Okay. But a lot of people aren't aware of this. The mind is an instrument that actually has an on-off switch. So, like a TV, someone can go over, choose to put it on, choose to put it off. The mind is the same. Now, people listening to this will be thinking, this guy is completely bonkers. Not only is my mind on, like people I know, they suffer from a thing called earworm, where they've just got music playing permanently.
Yeah, Sam's got that, hasn't she? I just grassed her up.
Actually, the good news
you told me that story, I was like,
through her practices. So funny stories. I don't know how much you'll thank us for this, but we're on a silent retreat, and it's like 9 days of silence. And day one, the silence starts. She closes her eyes and she's got Santa Baby playing. Oh, Santa Baby.
Just on loop.
We're on loop. So the hilarity afterwards, and yet now through the practices, she's experiencing longer and longer, more profound periods of silence. So the realization is that, okay, so it's not something that was fixed in my mind. And science supports this through neuroplasticity, which is the ability for us to change the shape of our brain. Here's Sam, she's living proof of the change in the transformation, not with any form of medication, purely and simply through yoga, meditation, and the breath. She's created and is continuing to create and enjoy the changes that are possible.
Amazing. And so she's not got songs on all the time now?
No, I think only on a Saturday. Only on a Saturday night.
I have songs. I wake up sometimes with an earworm, you're just like, sometimes you're like, why that one? I'm not listening to that song for like 15 years or something. It's just in there. You're like, didn't even know that I had that in there. But obviously everything's in there, isn't it? And sometimes it's just playing. But a lot of people, I know people who can't be in the house without the TV on. Some people have to have the radio on because they're scared of scared of the silence. So many people are scared of the silence. It's unbelievable.
Do you know what? And that's where, the ego is running riot. People have got this mental agitation. And as a consequence of the mental agitation, my heart goes out to them. They create permanent noise in the environment. Because actually the ego's convinced them that they need to be in a noisy environment. Well, actually, the opposite's true. It becomes important that we do find peace and we find silence. It's not important as to, it's not important really in terms of when you start to find the silence. It's just important that you do get started at some point. And again, that's why having community, being part of a tribe, because it can be incredibly difficult for people to change habits of a lifetime. That's what they've got. And this noise, this mental agitation, these mental, unhygienic mental activities, they need to make a start in order to experience what's possible. And then eventually arrive at the silence and the stillness, which can be achieved. And then as a consequence of that, this realization, this revelation of, oh my God, all these years, I've allowed this instrument called the mind to be on permanently 24/7 when there was always an off switch.
Yeah.
You know, it's like boom.
But it's them light bulb moments, man. That's what I sort of love to have on the show is what. Like, I'm gonna probably ask you the question in a bit, but what light bulb moments have you had where you've just gone, oh my, that's just destroyed everything that you thought about before that time, and you're just like, fuck, why did someone tell me this 20 years ago? Do you know what I mean? It would have made everything. For me, it was anger. Like, I always reacted like angrily, aggressively, kicked off at any, I'd just kick off straight away. Like, what? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing that for? Oh, and it was, and then when I realised, I was at a buddy's retreat and he told me that nobody had ever made me angry in my life. I was like, dickhead, of course they have. Loads of people make me angry. Do you know what I mean? My stepdad, this person. And then he was like, he kind of broke it down. He was like, no, your mind, you've always chose to be angry. That person's never made you angry. They might have done something that was like not nice, but they've not said to you, you have to be angry now. You've gone, I'm being angry now, rather than you could have just the exact same thing gone, I'm not going to be angry about that. It's just, that's fine. Like, but because that's your default mechanism. And then when he said that, and I was just like, eventually just like, oh my God, he's right. I understand now. And it was just like, my whole, like, everyone around me changed. I changed. I was just like, it was so refreshing. Felt about 2 stone lighter. It's intense. Yeah. If you had any of them, they're good.
Yeah. I mean, they're magnificent, and in some systems they're called moments of grace. Yeah. Okay, where it's like beyond you how big the change in that moment was. It like used the term, it was mind blowing. It blew the mind to smithereens. And I remember having a realization that I was probably in my early 20s, which, by the way, is young to find that.
And not very long ago.
This type of work, a couple of years ago, and the realization was that someone pointed out to me, it's actually similar and different to yours, that I was living my life looking in the rearview mirror. So if you think about the structure of that, I'm looking in the rearview mirror and I can just see, guilt, shame, sadness, anger, fear to events that have happened in my past. So therefore, there's no ability for me to be present because I am, and if you imagine driving the car just looking in the rear view, well, you're probably not going to last very long unless you're permanently driving in reverse. But it was just such a mind expanding aha that I had managed to tune in permanently to issues that I'd experienced in society, in my family. I was brought up in a Catholic experience. So guilt and shame and all that wonderful stuff in and around the religious upbringing. So, and that was a massive aha for me. And actually, I was working with a particular person at the time, and the particular technique that they were using was a technique that sent me into a meditative state. And I shut my eyes and I woke up, what to me was an eternity later, but was probably a couple of hours later. So I went off, completely disappeared. And when I came back, I was in this place called the present moment. It was so disorientating. All of a sudden it was quiet. I wasn't having to run away. Because if you imagine you're looking in the rearview mirror, you've got your foot to the metal because you're trying to get away from all this shit that you've got in the rearview. But you're just
watching it over and over and over and over.
Over and over and over. Everything that I was doing, every decision that I was making was informed by this mess that I was looking at in the rear view. So, and a lot of people I've come to realise suffer from living out of past experiences. And, people then need help and support to be able to get through that, to find the magic of the present moment. So that boom moment for me was all of a sudden all the stress and the pressure and the tension just dropped out of my head and my face and my body. because I was present for the first time.
Yeah.
And then, just to speak into it for the people who live out of a futurescape, which wasn't my particular problem or issue at the time. These people are imagining a future that hasn't arrived, that might never arrive, that doesn't exist and might never exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're actually crippling themselves mentally. And this is the way the mind works again, if we're not able to silence it and still it. Because of this incredibly powerful thing called imagination. Yeah, it's just a hallucination of some possible future. It's not the future that you're going to have.
Yeah.
So again, when we talk about taking measures to climb your Everest and silence your mind, we're talking about overcoming these agitations, whether it's based on your past, whether it's based on your future. It might, for some people, be based on both. Mm-hmm. And I love that little idea. Some people, if you imagine yourself stood there, they've got one foot in the past, they've got one foot in the future, and by the very nature of that, they're pissing on the present. So and that'll help people to maybe get a sense of, oh my God, what I need to do, silence the mind, learn how to do that, which is, it's, as I say, it's an instrument. Once we learn to control the mind, we get into the heart. Once we learn to get into the heart, all of a sudden we can create coherence, which is a balanced relationship between the head and the heart. And then we get to live more often in the present. What do we then need to do? We need to maintain our mental hygiene, which is every day we do the practices that we need to do, which is the equivalent to brushing the teeth and washing the body in order for the mind to stay purer and cleaner. And then what'll happen? Life will keep showing up. And then you just notice as life shows up how able you are to stay present. Because a lot of people don't get this. The nature of this experience called life is for you to grow. It's for you every day to grow stronger. But what do most people do is they get a little bit beat up and then they retreat and they hide. Well, that's not what life's here to make you grow. People talk about this notion of retirement. When I retire, I'm going to stop. And it's like, well, no, life. Yeah, all right. You might do this thing where you think you're retiring, but most people who retire, you speak to them and they go all on board now. Or the other one that people do is they got so identified with the job that they were doing, then they retire.
They die.
They die?
No.
They die. But they die because all of a sudden the identity that they had's just disintegrated. Well, where's it gone? Well, this thing called job, that was me. No. That's a fragment of all of who you are.
That should be a way of you facilitating being you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, all of a sudden, all this time and space opens up. But what you realise is, because they were living in the mind, the job was just the clutter that was allowing this mind-based reality to be lived out. That was their earworm. That was their musical loop, their job. So when the job's, removed from them, they're back in the space, like the person at home who's got the opportunity for a quiet home to sit in silence. They're putting the music on. The job is just their noise, their music.
They don't know what to do.
They don't know what to do, and then people talk about, they bring the job home with them. Well, of course they do, because they're mad. They're insane. But it's not who they really are. It's just this instrument called the mind. But just to give a shout out to the mind, though, by the way, the mind doesn't want this job.
Hopefully he's listening.
Hopefully he's listening. The mind doesn't want the job that you've assigned it. The mind is like, oh my God, I'm a lunatic. Why are you putting me in charge of all these things? And so the mind's actually in this state of, hopefully one day I'll be able to put all this stuff down. Well, it will, once we again learn to silence the mind, get into the heart, and find the present moment. And I can say it in a few sentences. I've got to underscore it by saying that's your Everest. That's the climb that you need to undertake. That's the climb that I undertake. And by the way, people might be thinking, okay, Greg, can you show me how to get to the top of Everest? And actually, do you know what? The best I can do is I can help you prepare. and I can get you to base camp. And then I know guides at base camp who can get you to the top.
Yeah.
But they might not take you on. You might get to base camp and they might say, sorry, you need to go back and do some more training.
You're not fit enough yet. Yeah.
You need to go and see Liam or Greg.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, you're a danger to the group because you've got this anger issue.
Yeah.
And we think that you'll probably freak out if such a thing happens. So no, you're not ready, or you're a danger to yourself. In listening to that, I'd encourage people, go and watch the movie Everest. Okay. Because it'll make so much sense to you now.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you'll notice in Everest is when they get to almost the top of the mountain, there's a really small ledge, and you can only go one at a time from that point. But because of the way the weather systems work, there's only a certain window of opportunity. And so you imagine the discipline that's required at that point. You're short of oxygen. There's all sorts of issues going on around you. The elements feel like they're working against you. And you've got to patiently wait your turn. And if the weather turns, you are so close to the summit, you've got to go down again. And that's where people get killed, because they think, I'm going for it. Yeah. And if your guide is a lunatic as well, then you make mistakes.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying with regards to, we've all made mistakes here. We've allowed the mind to be in control. And a metaphor that I like is it's the equivalent to giving your throne to a pauper.
Yeah.
The pauper is sat on the throne, and in order for you to take the throne back and put the queen or the king, and again, to broaden it out, back on the throne, what is required is this realization of, oh my God, there's been a lunatic running the kingdom. But actually the lunatic, the pauper, doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So to regain, the throne, and then to begin to run the kingdom authentically, we need to talk the pauper down, which is silence in the mind, and then return the heart to its rightful place, thereby moving from 3 to 5%. Even to 10, 15, 20, 50, maybe 80, 90, 100%. All of a sudden, what have we got? Transformation of the kingdom, ourselves and the people around us.
And the planet. Yeah.
The planet needs it.
Yeah. But people are so associated with that mind as them. They think that's who they are. And to let go of them is like them.
You mean I'm not my mind?
Well,
it's like,
yeah. But it's like to completely eradicate that is so scary for them, because it would actually feel like they were getting rid of themselves, and that scares them because they don't know this other person who's loving and caring and from the heart. They just know this person who's reactive, like confrontational, or the views that they have of the world, and they're scared to let go of it. They're not scared to let go of it. They don't know it's something to let go of. They're so entrenched in it. Yeah. They don't know there's anything else exists. So when I come across those people, I don't know how to teach them or how to show them that there's something else exists. They're the hardest nuts for me to. Well, I don't try and crack them. Like I have to have someone who talks to that can absorb and that's willing to think of something differently, to be open-minded to a different perspective, to go, oh yeah, I've not thought about it like that. Yeah, that's a better way of doing that, or that's a better way of thinking about that. Or, even for me, just like when I was in India and having a geezer say to me, like this girl, we were chatting in this restaurant with this girl, and the waiter come over, and he was talking about his brother or something. And she was like, oh, where's your brother? And he's like, oh, he's dead. And she was like, oh, I'm very sorry. Do you know, like proper English Western thing. Oh, I'm sorry about your brother's died. And he's like, oh, no, it's fine. He's in heaven. I see him very soon. And it's just like, even if that wasn't true, that his brother's in heaven waiting to see him soon, even just to live your life with the perspective that that's what it is, would be so much better for your body and for your brain, to just, because it's a more beautiful way of thinking, in it, and it's happier, it's creating more positive endorphins, serotonin. Like, you're not just going, oh, I'm never gonna see this person again, he's left me, why him before me, all that shit, you know what I mean? Just for me, that's just the perspective of like, even with climate change, people who deny it, it's like, okay, but let's say it doesn't exist. Let's say it's not a thing. The things that we want to implement to make the environment nicer are positive. Regardless of whether climate change is happening or not, these are things that make us healthier, have nicer, cleaner lives. You know what I mean? It's just that mindset of it doesn't matter if it's existing or not.
And people therefore have become so attuned to the minds, just to pick up on a couple of pieces that we've said along the way, because I think repetition can often be useful. So the first point is, those people who turn up and you're like, okay, I don't know what to do with this person. Actually, my realization through Yogananda is, okay, there's nothing to do here. You just get a commitment from the person to say, look, just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep turning up at your yoga class. And just keep doing the practices. And let's just notice what happens. And that's sufficient.
Because, but what about the person who won't even go to the yoga class, won't even have another perspective of anything?
So the reality is you just leave them alone. So for those people who choose to be asleep and stay asleep, and this is often a really challenging approach, because, if your heart is crying out and to help people, and this can often be family members. So you've got this heart association of, oh my God, I'd love my mum to change, or my dad to change, or can't my brother see the problems he's causing, or can't my sister see the challenges that are going on as a consequence of their behavior. And we have this like addiction to our desire to change other people, people outside of us. Whereas the only thing that we can change is ourselves. So the only responsibility we have to change is to change ourselves. And then actually, we can go to Gandhi, who said, be the change. Well, they weren't just like a set of words. What he was saying is, well, if you change yourself sufficiently, other people around you will latch onto it and be, oh my, that's a good way to be. And they will then, by association through resonance, which we talked about earlier, they will want to align with these people who they see as having incredible lives, who have created harmony inside of what is often seen as a very unharmonious environment that we're living in. So letting go, what's the key word that we often come across in spirituality is detachment. Because actually, when we've got a need for these people to change, or we're addicted to whether they change or not, we're back to, we're the ones who have now got the problem. If people can get this and do this, the person that is hugely transformed is the person who appreciates, I can only change me. I'm going to do my best to change myself as much as I can. Your change is up to you. So do not go kicking and screaming, trying to drag people into yoga studios or drag them in to sit down and meditate. Because people, as Yogananda said, people will find it when they're ready. So, that the minimum, think about the minimum requirement. You're thinking about, look, if you want to change, the minimum requirement is you show up. And if you show up, I don't care if you sit in the corner, because they can't not listen. They show up, they sit in the corner, you've got a whole class going on. Well, by the fact they're in the environment, they have to listen. By the fact they're in the environment, if they've got their eyes open, they're seeing the postures that people are doing. And then again, I don't know how deep we want to get with this. Even through association, mirror neurons. The BBC did a good program on it years ago. That, why do we get excited when we watch sport? Because we freely associate to the actions that we're seeing taking place on the field, be it football, be it rugby, at the moment because the World Cup's on, that we actually feel like we're part of the game. And you can often sit in your seat or on the couch and you're twitching and you're doing the moves, or your head might move. And then, we jump up, we scream, we shout. And these are mirror neurons firing in our body. So again, by association, if you just get someone into the environment, their mirror neurons are firing.
Yeah.
They're listening. So there's this thing of resonance,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that other example is, you know, if you've got two tuning forks that are, say, both middle C, you know, you hit one tuning fork at middle C, what happens to the other tuning fork? It begins to vibrate at the same frequency.
Mm-hmm.
Well, nature's just teaching us, you know, through tuning forks, people are identical.
Yeah.
If we're in the environment of a person who's vibrating, let's say, at a level, we talked about attachment, of detachment, then we're more likely to begin to find detachment more easily.
Yeah.
If we're in the presence of someone who, let's say, has got a still, quiet mind, then, you know, that's their tuning fork. We're more likely to then attune ourselves to the still, quiet mind.
Yeah.
So now actually finding permanency in detachment and the still, quiet mind, that's a little bit more of a challenge. Yeah, the more often you can put yourself in the environment of the tuning fork that is resonating at that vibration, the easier it will become for you, just by association.
Yeah. Just being in their energy band, their energy field.
You have to pick it up.
Yeah. Beautiful. Where did all this start for you? Like, in terms of, when did this expanded consciousness awareness start coming into your world? When did you start making changes and stuff?
Okay, so, you know, I often now tell a story which, you know, is my reality, that I believe that between the ages of sort of 0 and 5, I was wide awake. And then through quite a brutal childhood, you know, full of sort of like beatings and alcohol, and my father was away at sea, and that I gradually began to shut down, you know, in the way that I suppose I allowed the world to get on top of me, and felt downtrodden and beaten, and you know, whatever light I'd carried in was then subdued, diminished, obviously not put out. So whatever spark or glimmers that were left, I then gradually began to fan those embers, and was able to then start to realize, actually, no, there are other ways here, there are other approaches, and, you know, life, you know, life's not necessarily meant to be easy, because it's meant to stretch you and challenge you. Yeah, I believe at the same time it's meant to be enjoyable. Yeah. So, you know, and this again is back to the notion of finding balance in all things, and creating harmony, so that even when we are being stretched and challenged, we don't go into caveman setting, you know, which is running from the saber-toothed tiger, the fight, flight, you know, response. We're able to slow ourselves down sufficiently to be able to go into creativity and into a response that actually is going to be supportive and useful inside of what most people are observing as really deeply challenging situations, which, you know, in terms of the reality that we live in, means that, you know, people have to reprogram themselves and have to change the approach. You know, and it's an approach that, you know, clearly on many levels isn't working. You know, you know, we could say, look, we're so fortunate in terms of where technology's at in this day and age, and in many ways we are. Yet also technology potentially presents, you know, a great threat in the form of AI. If we're not able to understand the power of what it is that we've created, and therefore, you know, put it into good use or good measure. For example, you know, had the scientists known the work that they were doing on, you know, was going to create nuclear bombs, then, you know, a lot of those scientists who were interviewed would be like, well, I never would have done the work.
Yeah.
But the work that they were doing, let's think about it. If that work had been used creatively for the common good of the planet, you know, where might we now be?
Yeah.
We could be light years beyond where we are. So even though people see these phenomenal advances, which they are there, they're also, you know, the Achilles heel of them is too often, you know, they are being motivated by fear. You know, well, war is predominantly fear. You know, I'm scared someone else is going to bomb me. People often argue self-defense, but, you know, it's, you know, so again, where does all that come from? You know, it's coming from this mind-based reality that people are creating. And again, if we had Hearts in Harmony, heart-based reality, well, we'd probably put all the best scientists from all the countries together. And then we'd be finding solutions where we'd be saying, you know, poverty in our world or famine. You know, famine could easily be eradicated.
Yeah, instantly. Yeah.
You know, but it requires this change towards inclusiveness, not survival of the fittest, not exclusiveness, not individual agendas.
Yeah.
You know, again, you know, we're floating, you know, overnight, just look up at the sky and the stars. This planet Earth is our spaceship.
Yeah.
You know, we are floating on a lump of matter in the middle of outer space. You know, and people are blowing each other up. It's come on. You know, you're blowing lumps out of our spaceship. What's going on? And, you know, this spaceship is being designed to, you know, feed us, hydrate us.
Yeah. And all people want is the same thing, really.
They do.
Just think they want different versions of it, but it's the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, so, but then, you know, you depending on how cynical you're being, you know, the planet has now been governed and organised again by the mind-based, you know, agenda. And actually, I don't want to get too off into so-called conspiracy theories. Because I think the greatest...
we could do another show on that, mate.
Well,
is that right?
Yeah. But the greatest conspiracy is that it because we're in a mind-based reality, you know, the mind is running the show, and therefore it's so limited as a consequence. That is the trap.
Yeah.
That's the trap we're all in. So we free ourselves from the mind individually and collectively. We free ourselves from what most of these conspiracies are. And I think, you know, people are going on about the perpetrators of a lot of these conspiracies. Well, those perpetrators, most of them are controlled by their minds anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just one big mind storm. It's one big, we are, as a planet, one big mental health problem. Yeah. Which is getting bigger. How do we know it's getting bigger? Well, you only got to look at suicide rates.
Yeah. But it's good that it's getting better because
it's getting bigger.
I mean, it's good that's what I meant. Sorry, it's good that it's getting bigger because for me, when you don't realise you're fucked and you're in your mind and it's causing you toxicity, then you're not going to make any positive change. So this whole thing, like for me, when I talk about depression now, like we said, there's polarities, what's good and what's bad, what's toxic can be made good or what's good can sometimes be made toxic. But there's no fortunate or unfortunate situations. It can all lead to something fortunate. You've just got to see that beauty in it. Is if you're coming from that place of love, then you can see that, well, okay, this bad thing that happened is just a lesson. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we're tuning into, you know, which is it's important that people do focus on the positive. So, you know, no matter what your environment is, if you can get into this mind space, this heart space, you begin to realize that every environment is simply wanting to teach you a lesson.
Yeah.
And the universe has this incredible ability to bring into your space the people, the places, and the things that are exactly perfect for the lesson that you are due to get.
Yeah.
So, myself and friends of mine, we now see this lifespan as it's a cradle to the grave school. That you are going to get lessons coming at you, and they can come at you as thick and as fast as you want them to. Because actually, which would be another podcast, we can pretty much control the speed of the environment that we find ourselves in. So then to say, well, no matter what's coming at me, if I'm in the spirit of, okay, so I'm in another lesson, right, it's a very challenging, difficult one, yet what's it looking to teach me?
Yeah.
Then quite often, people begin to realize that, the diamonds are embedded inside of the difficulties and challenges that life's throwing at them. So, not only do we need to get out of the mind, we need to tune into the world being a beneficent universe that wants to teach us. We're going to begin to get into some belief systems, which I think could hugely challenge and stretch people. Yeah, I just, emphasizing that point, see every interface, every moment as the opportunity to learn something. So people listening to this podcast, there's the opportunity to learn one or many things. What's brought them to this podcast? Well, clearly they're seekers, they're searchers.
Yeah.
They're looking for things, and the universe is saying, you're looking for something. All right, I'm going to put you in touch with this podcast. Why is that happening? Well, because the answers do exist. Yeah. The universe, I believe, wants to respond to the inquiring mind, the insatiable curiosity, and say, we often hear, when the pupil's ready, the teacher appears, or when the pupil's ready, the master appears. Well, the teacher and the master are appearing in many, many different forms. It can be appearing in the relationship that you're currently in. It can be appearing in the job that you've currently got. It can be appearing in the social setting that you've currently got. So this universe is massively orientated towards helping and supporting. It's just that we've fallen asleep. We've forgotten that. There's a level of delusion. There's a level of amnesia. Yet once you can shake off the amnesia, the delusion, the sleep, and you can wake yourself up a little bit, you can begin to look around and go, oh my God, yeah, they are all lessons.
But the universe is still doing its thing. It's still providing, because the mind is toxic and is in this state of confusion and in chaos. That's why the world is in confusion and chaos, because the universe is providing that. And if your mind's like that, you will attract more stuff like that.
Yeah, and what the universe is also simultaneously doing, though, which is where the real beauty is at, is through nature, it's providing us with absolute examples of harmony inside of the chaos that we as humans are creating through the mind. And so you look at, for example, science now knows that the root structure of trees and plants, all vegetation, communicates with each other. So if one plant in the forest is sick, or tree, every tree and plant knows about it. So
if we're resonating with that other 93% of us that should be, we would be able to feel the pain of every other human that's on the planet.
Okay, well, if
we were similar to plants.
Well, if we were resonating at the 93%, I think we'd be in what we could probably call a Jesus phenomenon, where we would have not one person that was able to heal the sick and the afflicted. We'd have many people. Look at, if we can achieve what we're achieving on 3 to 5%, well, what can we achieve with the 100? And, again, I don't want to be woo-woo or become, all religious and spiritual on people. Just look at the facts in terms of capability. If 3 to 5% gives you this, oh my God, what does 100% give you? Well, and that's when, if you do want to peer into then religious texts, if only you had the faith of mustard seeds, you could move mountains. Well, at 3 to 5%, we have limited to no faith. That's why, we're individuals, we're in annihilation, pain, suffering. Whereas if we're in the 100%, I'm sure, we can walk on water, we can heal people, we can move mountains, we are full of faith, we are at one with each other, not just with the planet. We stop blowing bits of that, but we're in unison with the whole universe, the cosmos. And so nature is a beautiful example where it teaches us, and like, look at a tree. Am I a tree hugger? Yeah, I admit, I do like to hug a tree. Yet when you look at a tree's not trying to rush itself to grow. The tree just grows at the rate that it grows. The branches find a way, and in the autumn, bits drop off and die, and then in the winter, that is all then goes back into the soil, into the ground. So you've got this like harmonious transfer of living and dying done elegantly. And so if we can begin to look more closely at nature's still maintaining and giving us perfect examples of being, not being a person or being something in particular, just being. So
have you I've read a book called Grandfather by, is it Ron Brown or someone?
No.
Oh my God, that is so much about just tuning into the fluctuations of nature and letting nature teach you everything, and going back to simplicity. It's about his indigenous kind of grandfather that adopted him, who'd been born in America like in the 20s, and then basically just roamed for 80 years, but went as far down as like the Amazon, was just could track and had all these special abilities. And just to read that book and just like how you can become so connected to nature, but learn those lessons of how you can bring it into this world that we're, this kind of disconnected world from nature as well. Beautiful.
Yeah, and the indigenous peoples, and it's like the lunacy of us going into the jungles and saying about tribes, look how backward these people are.
Yeah,
you sort of, now you cringe and you think, well, hang on a minute, they had a community.
Super advanced. They can talk to plants, man.
Yeah.
We can't do that shit.
Yeah, and and therefore the hilarity is, us with all of our advancements in technology, like going in there and saying, you need to basically, what is it? Again, this insatiable curiosity. Well, all right, maybe there are things that we can teach those people, but hang on a minute, let's be insatiably curious. What is it that they can teach us?
Yeah.
And then that becomes beautiful.
But we make this instant assumption that we're more advanced than them. It's instantly made.
Yeah,
in the West,
full of stupidity.
Yes.
We shut ourselves off, and now we've not only are we now not open-minded, we're definitely not open-hearted. And therefore, but that again it's beautiful because it gives us another example of this school that we're living in, this universe. Inside of which, not only if we can get from the 3 to 5% up to the 100%. Actually, I believe nature's showing us, which, you just said, and also, this is well documented in certain books. But also, indigenous unspoiled communities have also got lots of skills and abilities that are maybe of more what we would call a spiritual or innocence from their inner space. And if we just did pause and took the time, then, we'd notice that there's a lot that we can learn. So I believe that, again, when the pupil's ready, the master appears or the teacher appears. And the teacher and the master, again, can be appearing in the forms of all of a sudden, I've got a connection to nature. So people realizing, actually, when I do go for a walk in the forest, I actually begin to feel stiller, more centered, more calm, more in the now. Some people will report they go for a walk in the forest, they feel more mad or crazy, or but all that's happening is the needs are being triggered in them to say, look, if you keep going the way that you're going, you probably are going to go mad.
Yeah.
Because you've got to get off this mind-based reality.
And that's the difference about, like, what I learned is when you're in a forest, the forest's giving, the energy that the forest is giving off is negative ions, which are good for us, which make us feel energized, like enriched, alive. And machinery and planes and trains, we always get off and we're a bit fucked, aren't we? Like, sometimes you get off a train and you like feel like you've been jet lagged because you've been in this machine for so long, and they give off positive ions, which have the other effect, a different effect on us. It's like we're getting hurtled all the way down to London in a car, and we get out and you're knackered, aren't you? And you kind of understand. Yeah. It's just the polarities of each different thing. Yeah. I'm trying to encourage people to get out in nature sometimes. Take your actual shoes off and get your feet in there.
Yeah. I mean, it's, so beautiful, so grounding, and I'm also conscious, for the audience that it might all at first sound a little bit woo-woo, which is why, just start where you're at. Yeah. If you're living it up, you're doing sex, drugs, rock and roll, it's just a perfect starting point. And
that's what the name of the podcast is, Dealer to Healer. So that's what sometimes you got to go through that. You sometimes have a better story at the end of it.
Yeah, I think, and as well, that's why a lot of people don't necessarily find, personal development or spiritual development until their 40s, because you accumulate a lot of raw material. And as a beautiful scientist, you get your raw materials together, and then you work out, right, how am I going to change all these base metals into gold? Yeah. All this shit that I've accumulated, and then you get into your lab and you start to distill everything, and then you go, oh my God, actually that wasn't a bad event. That was a good event because it taught me this.
Yeah, it was rich,
And that relationship there, oh my God, the years of pain and suffering and heartache and well, no, now I can actually extract from that the gold, which is this, this, and this. So, being an alchemist, being a scientist, and realizing that everything that we're accumulating is simply raw material that is designed to allow us to become more than who we currently are. In every test that we've been given, every challenge that has been given to us, is simply us being fashioned in the most beautiful way, so that because people often talk about you were born for a specific purpose, and maybe many different purposes, something in particular that you're more capable of giving the planet or bringing the planet than someone else is.
Superpower,
the superpower, which even in this day and age, look at because a lot of people watch an insane amount of soccer. Even look at the superpowers of certain footballers. They were born to entertain. That was their gift, their dharma. And again, that's beautiful. Some people were born to be, excellent business people. And you look at, some of the fortunes that people accumulate in that way. Yeah. Also at the same time, so we're never at any point saying what someone's superpower needs to be. These superpowers show up across contexts, and then other people have been given superpowers to awaken hearts, to still minds. Some people have been given incredible powers as teachers, some people as aid workers, some people as newsreaders, artists. The creative side.
And some people don't figure out the superpower till they're in the bloody 80s. Exactly. But it's keep going with it, keep trying new things.
Yeah, and therefore, allow yourself, as the tree in the forest does, to just allow the support, the water, the sunlight, the nutrients, the connection with others to gently guide you and form you. So we go back to Yogananda again. It's like, come as you are, just don't stay as you are. Let the nurturing environment, but that presupposes one thing, that you're going to put yourself into a nurturing environment. So, if, for example, you're in a relationship and there's any form of violence, whether, physical or verbal, get out of the environment. If your house is on fire, what's the first thing that you do? You just get out. You don't stand there trying to gather stuff because your house is on there. You just get out. So people in difficult situations are being called to certain forms of action in order to get into a context or an environment that is designed to support and nurture them on their evolution, their path, their growth, their development. Something that resonates with me is, find your tribe, you find your vibe. And by the way, these tribes and vibes and these teachers and these situations, people say, well, if I find it, how long am I meant to be there for? And the answer is, for as long as you're meant to be there for. So people come in and out of our lives for either a reason. Could be a one-time event, one night stand. What did you learn from that? A season, or a lifetime. Which is normally, we have a child, and the child is then there with us for the lifetime, however long that period is. So if people are here for a reason, a season, which maybe is a week, a month, people that you were with in school, for example, or university or college, wherever it is that you went, or people that were there in your first job but not in your second. So we've got all, birth and death is going on continually. People arriving, people leaving, this constant inflow and outflow. So a reason, a season, and a lifetime. So we find the tribe, we find the vibe. Then we learn is all we need to learn to do is to be present in the right context. What happens then if we're present in the right context? Well, then we grow like a tree because we're nurtured and guided and supported by this environment that we're able to put ourselves into.
And if we're in tune with ourselves, we'll know when the time to move on, to leave, or when it's not serving us anymore, or just that when we're supposed to move our tribe.
And it can be sometimes that actually, we can be moving on, because we're at a high point, or maybe we're moving on because something in the tribe that we didn't realize when we first joined has now become obvious to us because of our growth in consciousness. And it's particularly painful. And we're saying, well, why did I ever join this tribe? No, you joined the tribe because at the time that you joined, it actually all felt right. It had the right vibe. But now your consciousness is growing. You're observing differently. You're looking through different lenses at the world. Okay, so now's the perfect time to move on.
And it's also fine for things to not work out the way that you thought they were going to work out.
Absolutely. And, that's where every scenario and situation is another lesson. We take it to an even higher level. There's no such thing as things not working out. And now this might really, you might get calls on this or emails.
No, but the not working out leads to something else. So it did work out.
But what's the reason that we don't believe it worked out? It's the mind. It's the mind's interpretation. Oh, this isn't working out. I've got a friend of mine at the moment who in a relationship, very special tantric relationship, and the guy has decided that what was the right thing to do in the relationship was to take a 9-month break. Okay, so they're committed to each other still, which in this day and age people will be like, what a stupid relationship that is. But the beauty of it is that, he has a realization that they're both experiencing massive levels of attachment. So in order to give themselves the time and the space to let go of the attachments, there's a period of separation, inside of that a period of bereavement, a period of then healing, whilst they reawaken to, okay, so if we learn to detach completely from each other, how much more loving can the space be? Because the space is no longer infused with needs and wants and, petty aspects of self, that detract and take away from the purity of the love and the connection and the togetherness when they're together in the present moment.
Yeah.
But their realization is, well, we can't be present to each other because of these needs and these wants that we've got.
Yeah.
So I'm just using it as an example again of, you never know what the lesson's going to be, and you never know how far the lesson's going to go. Yeah, as you expand your consciousness, some of the decisions that you begin to make as a human being definitely won't make sense to the majority of society. And I'm using my friends as an example. And they're both dear to me, but, they're both really dear people. Yeah, I can look at the choices and the decisions that they've made and go, okay, yeah, I can see the commitment that you're making to each other is so profoundly beyond where the step that people would normally be prepared to take.
Yeah.
The opportunity for transformation for them is it's epic. It's beyond epic.
Yeah.
So, that, and again, I'm just giving you an example.
It takes a lot of balls to sort of do something like that, because we are so attached to so many different things, especially relationships. It's like, found that one that's completed me, but I wasn't complete before, so I'm still not complete, am I?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's beautiful.
From a mind-based point of view, we've got a certain relationship with intimacy, with sensuality, and with sexuality. And the mind has created for us this labyrinth of porn. Yeah. Which I don't know the viewing numbers, but in terms of Google searches, it's like the most viewed thing on the internet. Yeah. Porn, and I think there's many different ways to view beautiful bodies. Yet the mind has created this labyrinth called porn, and it's desensitized the levels of intimacy and connection. And when I found Tantra, and by the way, Tantra is another labyrinth. Yeah. Because the minute a lot of marketers got onto the fact this thing called Tantra, they start using it for reasons that are so non-tantric. Yeah. Because
people just instantly you think smutty undertones of hippies having sex and being able to have sex with lots of different people. That's what the mainstream view of it is, really, isn't it? Yeah. But it's not that. It's yoga. It's a form of yoga. It's a spiritual practice.
Yeah, and it's ancient practice where what the ancients realized is they realized the divine beauty of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And in fact, you'll know when you go to India, there's a huge number of sculpted bodies around temples, and they're all naked.
Yeah, and it baffles you because India's so shut off from that showing sexuality or man-on-woman contact. You think they must have been really liberal in the past. There must have been this kind of openness to this tantric practice, and it just got squashed.
Yeah. So the realization was the ancients understood the intimacy, sensuality brought a level of levity and healing, and it actually, if you think about the beauty of like gentle touch and connection, it was actually a way they realized of lighting up the soul. So these divine qualities that we'd been given at birth in terms of our shape and our form then played out through dance, for example. Yeah. And through conscious touch. What's conscious touch about? Conscious touch is just being 100% in the moment and at the point of touch. So we're bringing all of our consciousness, all of our being to this sacred moment of finding another being. Now, if you look at porn's the extreme opposite. Yeah. porn's the desensitizing. And again, it's not that that's necessarily bad, because again, let's see it as a teaching point. It's the fact that we've allowed these minds that are completely out of control to create this environment, which actually is been teaching the youngsters of today. Because the youngsters of today, sadly, in terms of their connection and their sexuality, believe if they're not doing their girlfriend up the back passage on the first date, they're doing something wrong. And if they're not like trying to, bang her forcibly. But the sadness inside of that is that youngsters have got this distorted view of how to connect and how to be intimate with another human being. And then what's even sadder, and you and I, know this through the chakra system, is the energetic system, and this is where the tantrics went with it, was that the energetic system is designed in such a way that the highest highs can be experienced through intimacy, love, connection. Yet the only way that you learn to access that is through softness, expansiveness, love, connection. Well, as I give you these words, just like overlay those words on porn, and none of it's there. So
it's always a plumber or someone coming round. It's always a manual job.
Exactly. And so, the message that I would just like to put out there for people is there's another way. And, I've been exploring this other way for a number of years now. I'm in a monogamous relationship with a beautiful woman, Samantha. And we explore these intimate, sensual, connected ways to make love. We'll make love for hours at a time. We'll put specific time to one side in order to therefore do it with consciousness. And in order to do it inside of connection, we'll do things like, we will pray together before we make love, we'll consecrate, we'll remind each other of what is beautiful in our relationship.
So it's kind of more like a ceremony than an act.
Totally a ceremony, and it's an offering. And therefore, if people want to discover more about Tantra, sacred sexuality, there are places out there. Tara Yoga Centre in London, I would recommend. My own teacher, Advaita Stoyan, you can find online.
Their place in Copenhagen.
Copenhagen, beautiful people, open-hearted, enriching. For those that aren't ready, it can appear confusing. Some people are in monogamous relationships, some people are in openness, open relationships. And that can be really challenging in the sense that people who aren't ready for open relationships, which again, people who are stuck in their minds, their egos get involved, and there's they've got this idea of threesomes, foursomes, manysomes. But again, they're back in the porn, reality, as opposed to this is about love. It's about connection. It's about intimacy, sacred sensuality. Which, as we've talked about climbing Everest, we've talked about understanding that the mind's an instrument and being able to soften the mind and quieten the mind. All of this becomes really important in the bedroom. And if you want to know your own level of consciousness, just look at how you're making love or not making love. Because how you are in the bedroom directly reflects how you are in life. And one of the greatest tests that the tantrics give to the level of consciousness for men is non-ejaculatory orgasm, which means that you're retaining your seed. Now, if you start to think, but first of all, people, or certainly men, think, oh, it's mad, and then they normally throw some very loose examples at you to say, well, the doctor thinks it's bad for the prostate, retaining your seeds, you should shoot your load from time to time. But the reality, the science behind it is the most precious building blocks inside of us as men is contained within the seed.
Yeah.
Well, why is that? Well, because the seed is going to make babies.
Yeah.
So they want the best of everything. So if men are trying to understand, why do I experience that huge low just after I've shot my load, just after I've ejaculated?
It's a nice way to put it, thank you.
Yeah. It's and the main reason men experience the low is because all the alarms go off in the body.
Yeah.
To say, oh my God, the human race is at risk. Need to reload the tanks.
Yeah.
But where does it go to recreate the sperm? So it goes and it takes a little bit from your liver and your kidneys and your heart. But it takes the best of everything. So when the alarms go off, the whole system needs to shut down because creation is at risk.
Yeah.
So actually the intelligence of the body, so the reason that the tantrics realized this and said, whoa, whatever you do, keep all the seeds in-house, is because then energetically you day to day are going to have far more energy, far more vibrancy. And here's the other thing. If you manage to achieve non-ejaculatory orgasm, which to start with just means stopping at the point, before the point of no return.
Just stopping and
stop. Go and have a brew,
and then come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to go down that route, then you can stop.
Just stop and freeze.
Yeah, freeze. Don't move. Don't move. Yeah. So retaining this life force energy means that as a man, we, as I say, not only maintain all the energy in the system, we're also able to make love for hours and hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
Now, the challenge for men, once they begin to learn to do that, is you can begin to think you're going mad. Because actually you're unleashing these energies in your system that you don't know how to control or how to deal with.
Yeah.
Which is why you have to then get involved with the tantric system to learn how to deal with these energies in harmonious ways in order to maintain your sanity, your peace, your harmony, and your balance.
Sounds awesome. Something like we could do a whole show on just Tantra, really.
Yeah. But someone better than me that I can refer you to.
Hook us up, man. Because we'd love to do a show on Tantra, because I'm just scratching the surface with it all. Yeah. And would like to know more. And
sensitively scratching.
Sensitive, yeah.
She's enjoying it.
Calmly, just gentle, soft. I've got a soft side to me, Greg. You know that. So it would be great to get someone and just do a full podcast on Tantra for me and for the audience. It'd be great to understand more, because I think it's another one of them things. It's just got it's marketing strategy, which people's assumption of what it is at first is just alarm bells go off, and it's not what it actually is it? I've learned so much.
It's the opposite.
It's the total opposite, man. We're learning in the group that we're in together about how to be masculine. Which is, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and it's the opposite of being macho, being butch, and walking around as if I'm a God's gift to women. You're God's gift to women in a beautiful way, because you're such a understanding, open-hearted person who's kind of actually wanting to satisfy their needs more than your own. And to learn that, last year in our Tantra class, I'm like, why wasn't I taught that, years ago? Why wasn't I taught about women's emotions, and that they're not just it's not personal, that women's emotions are up and down because of what they're experiencing through, what they're going through. So to have that understanding is such a gift, and if we can start giving that to younger and younger and younger people, it's just it's incredible. Thank you. Thanks for all the stuff about the mind. Just before we go, I wanted to share a little story about Greg. And not about you. I'm not going to grass you up for anything. Don't worry. But last year, just to the level of what a human Greg is, and my respect for him is basically last year I was going through like I had like 3 or 4 months of just like hell. I wasn't sure what I was doing and know what I was supposed to be going. I was like, I'd split with my girlfriend, then I wanted her back. I was like just depressed, didn't want to be here, but was just like, I've got to practice on my meditation. I was working, decorating every day, didn't have any money. I was just like, what am I doing? I'm working, but nothing's happening. And I remember coming home one day and I lay on the floor just there with my hands like in surrender to the divine, and I was just like, was in Shavasana for probably an hour, and I was just like, just show me something, just give me something to do, just show me a sign, tell me what I need to do, because I feel fucked. I feel like I'm going mental. Just please God, just help me. And anyway, so I did that, had a bath, went to bed. The next day I get a message off Greg, do you want to come to France and do some meditation and healing work with me? Like, you don't have to worry, the house is paid for and stuff. So I just had to book my flight, and we went over there and did breath work and meditated every morning, did yoga every morning. It was a really amazing part of my path of another little mini breakdown into getting through it and recovering. And so I'm eternally grateful for that, brother. Thank you very much. It was it was a lovely thing. So yeah, if you want to check out any of Greg's stuff, it's called, just give us the plugs again before we
I think go. The best place at the moment is onebreathglobal.com, which is ONEBREATH global global.com.
Cool.
And then I've got I do a weekly recording, and what we're doing at the moment is the whole theme of Everest. We're actually building everything around that.
Yeah. Because
we want people to realise that, you've got your climbs to do. You just described one there, where you submitted yourself, you reached out, that's you that's you realising. But on these climbs, let's make it clear to everyone, you need help, support and assistance at time. You can't do it on your own. Everyone I've met at some point has been supported by someone else.
Up, innit?
You need it.
Yeah.
So, and that's learning to ask for help is a strength. On the path, it becomes a key core strength. I need help, support me. So, and again, mate, I just want to make it really clear for people, your challenges can be transformed into your greatest strengths. Here you a little while later, and you're communicating vital messages to large groups of people, which will change the hearts and minds. So be self-loving, be kind to yourself, and do reach out. That's the takeaway message.
Thank you, brother. Thanks.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for that. So One Breath Global, check it out, check the website out, check it out on Facebook. There's loads of little nuggets of wisdom there for you to get your teeth into. So yeah, just one more thing, massive thank you to Greg. That was a really interesting conversation, and I hope we have another one in the future, my brother. Have a lovely evening. Peace.
Much love. Yeah.
Sweet, man. Awesome. That was Greg Garrett. That was an incredible conversation, powerful conversation, insightful conversation, a conversation that I won't forget in a hurry, one that resonated on a deep level. And like, as you could hear at the end of the show, my love for Greg is very deep, and I respect him as a man, and that's big, man. There's not a lot of men that I have respect for, and I'm trying to manifest more positive male role models into my life, and Greg is definitely one, and one that's kind of took me under his wing a little bit. So thank you so much, Greg, for all your help just on my personal journey, and for all the help you've given in that podcast for all my listeners. Your brain's amazing, and the way you break things down is just incredible. So thank you. So what else we got coming up next on the show? Lewis Powell, who's a Cambo Ayahuasquero. He's a shaman, he's a healer, he does soul retrieval, he's been on a mad journey like me. He used to be a dealer, now he's a healer. So that's going to be an incredible podcast, and I'm really excited about that, just in like a kind of like a voyeuristic way, because I love the magic and the craziness of the spirit world and that spirit realm and plant medicines and that otherworldly stuff. I used to love taking drugs, man. Do you know what I mean? And these things expand your consciousness, but in a cleaner, more beautiful, connected way to your heart. So I'm more drawn to, rather than your typical street drugs. It's plant medicine stuff that's helping me grow, that's helping me understand myself. So he's coming on the show. My past podcasts, Stuart Pilkington, Win Carter, Matt Ryan, Gina Swire, all incredible. Go and check them out if you haven't heard them before. They're amazing. Beautiful conversations. Really, like, some of them made me laugh a lot. Like, I just really enjoyed talking to them. So yeah, thank you for listening again. Dealer to Healer, A Modern Tale of a Fucked Up Male is on Amazon. My Hitchhiking Feel the Good Vibrations book is also on Amazon. Go and check it out. liambrown.com. Everything you need to know, my website, liambrown.com, all the blogs, all the stuff to the podcast. If you've got any questions, please hook me up. I want to try and start making some sort of community. If you've got any advice for the show, any advice for people you think I should have on the show or how I should do it, like, I'm learning and I'm vulnerable and I'm willing to listen to help and advice, because I ain't got it all together, man. I don't know everything. I'm just learning this shit. So yeah, I want to learn. I want to make it better. I want to make the show better and better and better and better. I want to get incredible people on my show, like I've had, just them to keep coming, and I feel like I've got them like a year's worth of people already, which is just like, oh my god, how blessed am I, man? How blessed am I? So yeah, keep listening to the show. Check out liambrown.com. Go and have a look on Amazon. If you read my book, please, if you got anything from it, even if I just made you laugh once, just go and leave me a review. It'd be lovely. I'll even give you a massive hug for over 30 seconds if we ever see each other in real life. And that is love. So please, get over there. Do what you can. Let's take this project to where it can get to. Let's help as many humans as possible step into the power. Let's all be shining brightly. Let's all be this fullest expression of ourselves. Imagine a globe with all these glowing people stepping into the heart. What a beautiful, beautiful planet we'll live on. And it's coming, man. It's happening. It's happening. Keep the faith. Keep the power. Keep growing. Keep listening. Keep looking out for those lessons, those teachings everywhere. Keep smiling. Keep having fun. And keep laughing. Peace and love. Have a beautiful week. Bye. You to bless my soul. Thank you so much for listening to the Deal is a Healer podcast. Please stay tuned for more episodes of transformation, of metamorphosis, of people becoming the most beautiful version of themselves and teaching you, the listeners, how to become the most beautiful version of yourself. So if you want all that information, all that knowledge, all these amazing guests that I've got on my show, please subscribe. There's a subscribe button somewhere on this screen, so please just link onto that. You'll get a notification straight away of any new episodes, and I promise you I've got epic guests coming up, so please stay tuned. If you want to know anything else about the Dealer to Healer movement, of what I've got going on, about my links to the book, links to my website, links to my music, everything, please go in the description below. It's just down there somewhere. You just hit description and everything, it'll tell you everything. So nice one. Have a beautiful day. Take it easy, and remember, please subscribe. That would be amazing. Peace.